Hi, here in Umeå. At least this is the name on the signs, though the stages are actually modeled from the old location in Värmland. First of all, we will see some Hyundai driving here now. I am dedicating this episode to Craig Breen. Rest in peace. For those unaware, he was a driver in the 2023 WRC season and was second place in Rally Sweden this year. You might see him on some leaderboards in-game also. But sadly, he had a fatal crash while test driving for Rally Croatia. So, as it turns out, Rally Sweden was the last round of WRC where Craig took part in. He was a very relatable personality and is a great loss for the sport. If you have the time, take a search for some of his driving or interviews with him. This is a humble reminder that rally is, despite all safety measures, still a type of extreme sport. I can't do a tasteful transition here, so let's kinda restart. Hi. After looking at a gravel and a tarmac rally, now it is time to check out this snow. Welcome to the Country and Setup Guide for Sweden, episode number 3. This is certainly the easier and more famous of the two snow rallies in the game. My recommendation for dialing in setups here is the stage Oslier. It is not the shortest, but it combines several challenges and crucially, it has the longest straight of this rally right at its beginning. This is important because we will take a look at gear ratios here, as they can gain you quite a few seconds in the Scandinavian snow. Into the basics. We already covered suspensions in Finland and differentials in Croatia. Now let's go for the gears. What you can adjust are the ratios for all the gears your car has. And finally, a final drive ratio as well. These ratios are literally the difference in the rotations between the wheels for any given rotation of the engine's drive shaft. They always look like stairways, because every higher gear needs to spin the wheels faster, otherwise you wouldn't need the gear at all. What you lose for faster spinning is torque. This is why we have gearboxes in the first place. If you adjust the ratios, you can basically trade acceleration for top speed. Usually you only need to touch the final drive. It is a setting to catch all gears at the same time. So you go faster or quicker, but the spacing of your gears towards each other stays the same. In most cases, you only need to search for the longest straight of a location and set the final drive in such a way that the highest gear will barely max out on the longest straight. This way you are maximizing all of your gearbox potential. Rarely you might also want to touch the individual gears. When you have a location that is locally different, like having mostly tight technical bits but also some long straights dotted in between, or vice versa. In those cases, you can basically split your gearbox a bit, tune it for mostly good acceleration and still reach a high speed, or for high speed while still having fast acceleration in a technical section. And Sweden is exactly such a rare location. That's why we are looking at it here. It has some extremely fast sections dotted in between, but mostly it is a flowing rally with many 3s and 4s, some tight turns or occasional squares and hairpins. So, going into Sweden's setup. I tried to keep the gearbox quirky around the 3s and 4s default speed, while still stretching the 5th gear very high. This does flatten your acceleration in that gear quite a bit, but eventually you are reaching a higher speed. Per default, the Rally 1 cars max out around 190 kph here on this long straight. Now it drives 210. This will gain you some speed on all the long straights. Let me show you the obligatory top 100 time here already, for credibility of what I am claiming. Now, when you are setting up your max speed with the gear ratios, be aware though, you don't need the physical maximum, only the practical maximum. So, if on any straight it becomes so uncontrollable at a certain speed that you start braking to keep control, then you do not need to have a higher speed capability. Don't spec your car for areas you as the driver are not able to reach. Spec it exactly in the way that you can extract your own maximum performance from it. That is the fastest way. Now for the suspension. I actually left it on default. Sweden has mostly smooth gravel roads, not many bumps, fairly mild jumps, and the default anti-roll bars already work nice for oversteering through the snow. If you never leave the road, you could go even lower and stiffer. If you try to cut every trench, you might want to go higher and softer. But I find the middle ground to be the fastest for my own driving style. Now for dampers. Very similar logic to Finland. A quick fast bump for the jump landings. A slow rebound, or fairly slow, for smooth driving, and roughly in the center the normal soft bumps. Differentials and brakes are also left on default. I didn't feel any need to touch them. The Hyundai was very controllable with this setup, and I could dance it nicely around those bends. Which brings us to the challenges of driving in Sweden. It is a very fast-flowing location, all on snow. Usually snow would be very slippery, as we will see in Monte Carlo, but here you are driving on studded tires. This gives you similar grip levels as driving on gravel. The key in the snow is to find a good rhythm and swing the car from left to right to left in a harmonic way. Don't try to take the corners like on rails. Grip is always too low here for this. Every corner is taken in a slide. This is the core driving here. But there are 3 more aspects to consider. First, are the roadsides in Sweden. Those snowbanks lining the road are not really a solid object, but also not really a soft pushover. It is compacted snow. If you touch it lightly, ever so slightly, it acts like smoothly braking your car, similar to a water crossing, but just for one side of the car. But if you enter too deep, they will quickly grab the vehicle and spin you out of control. Try to never rely on snowbanks to make a corner. Brake enough to get through the corner without using the banks. But if you find yourself hitting them very nicely, you can get on the throttle earlier. This way you will stay on the safe side, more or less, and still use the benefits of the snowbanks on occasion. Second aspect are those high speed sections. Remember the basics here and stay aware of the risk. A high speed crash can cost you much more than to take the speed a notch down. Always focus on car control first, speed is second. As soon as it feels too sketchy, take out some speed and regain your desired line. And the third aspect is the weather, especially anything with fog or heavy snowfall, because you cannot see very far then. This puts even more strain on the risk management, especially for those high speed sections. So remember, there is no shame in finishing a night, snow or foggy stage slower than when you drove the same stage in daylight. Finishing it is more valuable than to crash out trying desperately to repeat clear daylight times. So, in summary, find a good rhythm and swing the car around the Scandinavian forest. Keep those three aspects in mind to stay safe and finish in one piece. And that will then improve your times and consistency over time. I hope this has been helpful for rallying in the snow. Now we have a basic understanding of the three main surface types encountered in rallying. Up next will be Mexico. Yeah, Kenya is coming later because to finish tuning basics, there is this topic of brakes left. And steep technical, sandy, downhill driving lends itself much better to talking about the brakes. So see you in North America then. Have a great day. Tranquil madness.